And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Hello my friends, the Game Boy Geek here. Hey, what do you get when you mix hand management, action selection, the type of scoring that Coliseum from Days of Wonder has with the biggest show, and some Agricola scoring? Ooh, sounds interesting, huh? Today we're going to take a look at Circus Train, a new second edition. It's completely redesigned, re-implemented, and reproduced by Victory Point Games. It's from 1 to 5 players. It's about 90 minutes to a 2-hour game. And we're going to have fun going around, going to different cities, trying to put on the circuses, trying to put on the biggest shows, collecting clowns and acrobats and elephants. Oh my! Sounds like a lot of fun. We are going to have a lot of fun checking out how this game plays. It's got some interesting mechanics, interesting scoring. Let's take a look, show you how it's played. Alright, this Circus Train is set up for 3 players. And how we have it set up, it shows the map of sort of the Midwestern and Eastern United States. And what you're trying to do is put on the biggest show of the circus, traveling around to different places, meeting demands, putting on big shows, and scoring points while doing it. So we have it set up here, and as we notice, there's 8 sort of tokens out there. It's really cool. On the back side of these, they are circus tents. And so when you flip them over, we have different types. So let's look at the 3 different types of tokens and what they do. So I took this token off Buffalo, that's where it was at the time, just to show you what it looks like. So this is one of the local news type of counters. This essentially shows us that there's a demand for a show to be put into Buffalo. And so now let's look at the different types of talent that's in the game. From left to right, we have clowns. Notice that the clown piece itself is shaped like a clown. We have acrobats. We have freak shows, which again, look at the token, it's shaped like a big fat woman, like the fat lady. She sings, of course. And then we have horses, and look how it actually does look like looking at a horse from the back or the front. And then we have a human cannonball, and it's shaped like a cannonball. We have tigers, and notice it's shaped like a cat head. And we have elephants, and notice it's shaped like the type of thing that elephants stand on. And they're also different colors. Now when we look at this demand token, we see that this show is going to give us 2 points towards our biggest show. And it's also going to show us demands. Now there's some that are grayed out and X'd out. That means there's no specific demand for those talent in this area, which again was Buffalo. Now here we see that there's a demand for acrobats for 5 and human cannonballs for 3. So if I went to Buffalo and I was able to perform there, let's say I had none of these extra talents. Let's say I didn't have a acrobat and I didn't have a human cannonball. This one would simply be worth 2 points if this was the first show that I did. This would go 2 points towards my biggest show. If I had an acrobat, I would add 5 to it. If I had a cannonball, I'd add 3 to it. So if I had an acrobat and a cannonball in my talent pool, I would have 5 plus 3 plus 2, 10 points. Now, if you have 3 of either the acrobats or the cannonballs, or 3 of anything, you're known for being famous for that talent. And you get to double the points that are for that demand. Now everybody starts with their largest show at 10. It's just an admit 1 ticket that everybody gets. And so when you add up those points, you add up those base points that are on the ticket, plus any of the talent you have. You also add up any of the base points of previous shows. So as you do more and more shows, naturally your points are probably going to go up and up. Another type of token that can come up at the beginning of the round is a Bankrupt Token. And this just shows you that, hey, there was a carnival circus that was here before, and it went bankrupt. So these 2 people, the clown and the cat, are hanging around looking for jobs. So what happens as soon as that token comes out, it gets replaced by the talent markers, and people can go there and try to hire. We'll talk about how to do that later. The last type of token is just a straight Victory Point token. If you end up there, if your sort of train ends there for the night, you just get to pick that up and you get 2 victory points. Okay, a basic turn. You have, in the basic game, you have 8 cards to choose from. This is your hand. This is sort of your action selection. And on your turn, you're essentially just going to play one of these cards and discard it. And you cannot use that card again until all your cards have been used. Once everybody's had 1 turn, that's 1 week. And this would move up to week 2, and week 3, and week 4. So essentially, everyone in the first month is going to get 4 turns, or basically they're going to be able to play 4 cards in succession, one after another, after each person. And at the end of the 4th, there's an end of month. We'll talk what happens there. But let's look at what these different cards do. This is fast transit. It allows you to move up to 5 cities. So this really helps you get to one side of the board to the other. Let's look at another one. Overnight transit may move up to 2 cities and or perform or hire. So as here, I can move up to 2 cities. You have to follow the railroad tracks. So let's say I move up here and I want to hire these people. How hiring works in the base game is simple. You can choose up to 2 different types of people to hire. You can hire 1 or 2. And if I go here, let's say I want to hire the clown. I say I'm trying to hire a clown, and I simply roll the dice. If I get a 1 through 4, I automatically hire him. In this case, I rolled a 6. If I roll a 5 or a 6, I do not hire him and I miss it. I always have the option on a failed hire to pay $10 and hire him. So I could either pay $10 or, I just don't have the money right now, I can't hire him. Now I go for the cat. I roll, ooh, 1 through 4, I get him, so this would be in my talent pool. The next one is a wage transit. You can move up to 2 cities, but then you must pay wages or eliminate talent. On the board, we see the wages here. So after you've moved your 2 for that card, you have to pay wages. So you see here, their clowns are only worth, you have to pay them $1. The acrobats are $3. These 3 are $6, and the 2 largest ones are $12, and you have to pay those. For any one that you can't pay, you have to return them back to the talent bank. If there's actually more talent out there, they can come back on the board, but most of the time they might go back to the talent bank. And the last one is overnight hire and transit. You may move up to 2 cities and or special hire. Let's talk about that. So there's a guy here. I'm the green guy. I'm going to move here and stop there. Special hire allows you to do 3 possible hires. You can use it like a normal hire. So if you were in one of these normal spots with the talent, you could hire them as shown before. 2, you can try to steal talent from somebody else. If you end up on the spot of them, you can steal 1 or 2 talent markers from them, and you do the same thing. Rolling the dice, 1 through 4 gets you it. If you do steal it from them, and they still have their special hire card, they have to discard it, meaning they can't just steal it right back from you on the next turn. So this is a way to steal talent from people. The last thing you can do is hire sort of a special talent fee. You'll see in the different seasons, we see April, May, the talent fee is $5. But as you go in the different seasons, they get to $10, and in the last season, they go to $20. You can pay that amount depending on where you are in the game, and you can hire any 1 talent marker from the bank. So the interesting way of scoring in this game is you don't really get victory points until the end of each month. Now we talked about the biggest show, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's points for you. So we get to the end of the month, and this is how things are scored. The first thing you do is you look at your talent tokens. If anybody has at least 2 of the same token, if they have the most, meaning they have more than anybody else, they get a point for each of those. So if I had 2 clowns and nobody else had even 2, I'd get 2 points. And so let's see, I was green, I would move up to 2. And you do that for every talent marker that's out there. The second thing is you go by the largest performance. Now in this case, let's say I'm green, I have the largest performance. I automatically get, at the end of every round that I am the largest performance, you get 7 points. So you go there. And then it goes 7, 4, and 2 between the first, second, and third place of the largest performance at time. You then would start a new month and pass the first player marker to the next person, and that person gets to be first. We go to the end. At the end of any of these long weeks, the person that's in last place gets to try to steal any talent counter from anybody else. So this is a good catch-up mechanic. Now just to show you, as the game goes on, you get to the second and third seasons. Instead of the green tops coming out, anytime that the counters are replaced on the board, these larger ones are coming out. And let's say in the second season here, now when the Bankrupts come out, instead of there being 2 talents to choose from, there's going to be 3 of them. And the points are greater. Look at this. Now the elephants are showing up here, and 10 and 15 and 10 points towards your largest performance in the second season. So they get bigger. And then the last season, they get really huge, where sort of here, and you have these notes, there were the red on the back. Now look at this. There's a normal performance where now you're getting 25 and 25 and 10 for the largest performance if you have those. And this other one, we have one called a 2-week, where you actually have to be there, play a perform card, and then you have to stay there, and the next turn, or the next week, you have to play another second perform card there. But if you're able to do that, and you had some elephants and maybe a human cannonball, look at that, 40 and 25 and 25. So you do one of these 2-weekers, and it really is huge in catapulting your largest performance. So it's sort of an engine building where you start small and you really get large towards the end. Now I just explained the base game. There's an advanced game that comes in. It really adds a lot, not too much, but it really adds a lot to the thematic flair of the game. For example, okay, we have some special talents. So just like performance markers that are on the board, some of these special guys can come out and they can do certain things, like give you 1 extra movement or plus 10 to every performance for Big Bertha. One allows you to be famous for clowns or acrobats, even if you don't have 3 of them. So these add some interesting special abilities that you'll go out of your way to go get to help you in the game. The largest difference is now you have this thing called reputation. You start with a reputation here with a little arrow where it says 1 to 5. So before, when you rolled for talent, you just roll a 1 for 4. Now you have to roll a 1 through 5 to start. So, but what happens is over time, instead of just taking an action on your card, you could take money. Now taking money is for every $5 you take, you lower your reputation by 1. So you can do things to sort of cut corners in this game to help you out when you're in a pinch, but it's going to hurt you because now if you cut too many corners and your reputation is down lower, now to hire people I have to roll a 1 or a 2. So the more I hurt myself and hurt my reputation, the harder it is for me to hire people, which is very thematic. In this, if I have a card in my discarded pile that I really want to play, I can play it, but I'm losing 2 reputation to do so. If I do it in the last season, the last 2 months, I lose 4 victory points, so it really hurts. So this thing of a reputation is really cool. Also, when you try to steal from other players using the special hire, essentially if you're stealing from someone that has a better reputation than you, you have to add 1 to the dice roll, which makes it harder to steal from somebody that has a better reputation, which is, again, is very thematic. Also, at the end of those long months when you get to steal from somebody, if you're in last place, just like the base game, you can only steal from someone that has equal or a lesser reputation. Again, very thematic. The last thing it adds sort of is this little rest card, which says, you know, you can rest anywhere, but if you rest in Canada, essentially you do nothing, you can increase your reputation by 1. So there you can try to get your reputation up. The other way you can get your reputation up is on the basic transit card, there's a $10 circus parade. You pay $10 and you can raise your reputation up by 1. The last thing the advanced game adds is some event cards that get pulled out at the pretty much the beginning of a new month. Some of them are bad, some of them are good. So for example, all players who own horses, big cats, and elephants must immediately remove 1 of them at random to the talent bank. Ouch. Or it could be good at the end of this turn, this month, each player may exchange 1 talent counter in their circus for any other available talent counter in the talent bank. So that one helps you. So just to show you how those 2 things go. So at the end of the game, the scoring is essentially, this is sort of the Agricola type of scoring, where most clowns is going to get 5 victory points. No clowns, you get -3. No animals, -3. It makes everybody sort of, you know, work on different things. Most money, 5 victory points, and most performances, 5 victory points. So you add all those up, and you are the winner with the one with the most. All right, that is Circus Train. Now I'm going to tell you, I really enjoyed this game. I'll tell you what I really liked about it. First of all, I love the adaptivity, okay? You've got the basic game, which is good, really good. You've got a family version, which takes out a lot of the monthly scoring and a lot of the ends game and a lot of paying wages, the parts that might slow the game down a little bit. It takes those out, allows you to play with family members or non-gamers where it's not as hard to figure out what to do, a little more streamlined, it's a lot easier. I like that, the scoring is just biggest show only. And then there's also that advanced game that really adds a lot of more thematic sense into the mechanics of reputation and, hey, I can do something bad, but it's gonna lower my reputation, which makes it harder to do things like hire people. So I loved how this game was just different. It was unique. The theme is fun. It really comes out. All the mechanics and the mechanisms that you use to play the game are very thematic, and it just dripped theme, so I love that. I like the action selection where you know what you're going to be able to select. You can plan a couple turns ahead. I like that it's sort of a Euro game, but yet there's still that sort of American or Ameritrash sort of feeling where you can steal things from other players. You know, there's a lot to concentrate on, money and doing shows so you could continue to pay the wages for your people. But in the end, you're really trying to put on that largest show, and it doesn't matter when you put it on. You could put it on in the 4th, 5th month. You don't have to do it at the very end. But typically it's going to come in the last season, at least, probably the last month, but maybe even early in the last season. And I just loved how it's sort of an engine building where at the beginning it feels really tight. Money feels tight. You can barely hire people. You can barely pay their wages. But as the game goes on, it really, boom, catapults out that before you know it, you're doing huge shows and you're affording the elephants and you're putting on shows that go over 100 points of the biggest show on earth. So I really liked it. I liked all of that. Now there were some things that could have been improved. Now these are minor things. One, the board and the components. We just wished everything was a little bigger. You know, it's a little hard to see a lot of this stuff. So we just wish the board was bigger, the components were bigger. You know, when they come out and you're looking at what demands are there on the different cities and those little counters,
it's hard to see, you know, who's really there. And we have good eyes. We're young, and it's still hard for us. So it's probably going to be even harder for older people. You know, they could have maybe made those bigger, or they could have even removed the ones that aren't a demand in there and made the other ones bigger so it's easier to see. Also, the other thing is there's a lot of little nuances and little rules. For example, hey, if I don't hire somebody, I can pay $10 to hire them. But if I do a special hire, the money changes depending on the season. Oh, and on special months, at the end of the 5th month, you know, you can try to steal the person in last place from anybody else, one of their talent counters. There's a lot of little rules there. And I just wish, and a lot of that stuff is on the board, but there are some things that were left out, like that end of the 5th month. I wish it had said there on the board, hey, you know, last player steals, or, and you know, the rules, they weren't written badly, they were written fine. It's just that the way it was laid out, that, you know, they could have used that second column on the side to put some of those, hey, remember, this is a little nuance, and they could have made it a lot easier to remember or to play with some of these little rules that make the game happen. And I just wish that those were more easily digested or more easily, you know, reminded to the players. Because if you're running the game, there's a lot of things to keep track of with those little rules. Now, granted, I love the game. I highly recommend it. I'd never turn down a game. And so these are just minor things, but, you know, keep that in mind that if you play the game, you put it on the shelf, if you don't come back to it for a few months, you're going to have to really reread the entire rules again to remember some of those little nuances that really do make a difference. Little minor things, not big. Those are the only things I can complain about. Other than that, I love the game. If you're looking for a Euro that has Euro mechanics, Ameritrash, interesting scoring, great theme, you got to check out Circus Train.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.